Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Seth, one of the co-hosts of Engaged Podcast, to bring you today another great episode of Engaged Podcast. But before I can get into that, we have to give you my world-famous announcements. So, if you're listening for the very first time, whether you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Chromecast, Overcast, any one of those apps, go ahead and subscribe to this podcast right now. That way you can get notified every time we come out with a new episode of Engaged Podcast. You won't have to look for us. You won't have to search for us. Boom, it's going to be right there on your phone every Thursday morning waiting for you to listen. Super easy and super simple. And who does not like super easy and super simple? Also, if you're watching on YouTube, yes, I said watching, I just want to say it is such a pleasure to be able to add another level of experience to this podcast. So in the beginning of this year, we decided to take the podcast on YouTube to a whole new level by adding cameras. So now you get to actually watch me, Pastor, and the guest interact with each other, and you get to actually watch it unfold. So if you are a visual person, and that would help to enhance your experience listening to Engage Podcast, then go ahead and go over to our YouTube page. The link for that's down in the show notes. Also, if you go on our YouTube page, first of all, go ahead and subscribe and hit the notifications button on our YouTube page. That way you can get notified whenever we come out with a new video, and we have plenty of them. First of all, we've started a new series, a segment series on Saturdays called For the Love of God, where me and Pastor Anthony sit down and we react and review Christian, non-Christian, super Christian, like worship songs, any kind of music. And what we do is we react to it, review it, break down the lyrics, find out what is the song about, what is it teaching, and we just give an honest review. And so far, we've had such a blast doing it. The first one we did was a Matt Redman song, 10,000 Reasons, super popular Christian song. Then we did the band U2's song Vertigo, broke that one down. And then this Saturday, we're coming out with our reaction review for the song The Proof of Your Love by For King and Country. So that just shows you already in the 3 weeks just how many different type of songs we have done, and we haven't even begun to scratch the surface yet. We have probably at least 300 songs on our recommended sheet that people have sent in, songs that me and Pastor Anthony wrote down. This could go on forever. So go ahead and go on our YouTube page to check that out. Plus, there's all kinds of other content like our live services every Sunday at 11 a.m. You can watch it there. We've been so blessed to get, to hear back from people. We have a guy from, Germany who listens in every single Sunday. It's so cool. So go ahead and check that out. Now, with all of that being said, let's get to why you're here, and let's get to why I am so excited today. Our guest today, his name is Tom Barone. Now, I know Tom through my wife's family, and let me tell you, this is a solid individual. He is a police officer over in Ohio, and we get into his actual specific job because I didn't even know this job even existed, let alone what this particular type of police officer does. But he is just a great individual, and we get into some very deep topics today. We talk about the correlation between 48% of kids going to bed without a father and the outright disrespect that there is towards police officers. We talk about police brutality. We talk about the media. We talk about overcoming failure. We talk about politics. We talk about so many different things. I mean, anything you want to hear about is in this podcast today, and I'm not overemphasizing that. I'm just simply saying that this podcast has a little bit of everything for everyone. And I want to thank Tom so much for coming in, sitting down, and being so gracious with his time to be on our podcast. So give it up for our friend Thomas Barone.
Welcome to Engage Podcast. We're here today at Faith Presbyterian Church with, of course, Seth.
Yes.
Right-hand man.
Caught me off guard.
All right. And then we also have the privilege of sitting today with Thomas Barone. Thomas works at the Mahoning County Sheriff's Office, and he is the Deputy Sheriff of Patrol, or in patrol.
Right, that's correct.
In control. Right?
Absolutely.
All right. Well,
Absolutely.
we're glad you're here. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background growing up? I already can hear a little accent in your voice, so why don't you tell us about yourself?
Well, I grew up in New York. The city was an experience for me, and I didn't experience life until I got out of high school. The furthest I ever went was Pennsylvania. It's like I didn't know there was a whole western part of the country. So I grew up in New York. I was raised by my mom and my stepdad. My real dad wasn't a factor in my life. My stepdad did come into my life early, and they raised me. I went to high school. I was a very good athlete in high school. After high school, my athletic career came to an end, and I decided to explore a little bit, go outside the box of comfort, and I attended the University of Toledo in Ohio. And I fell in love with the school on a visit, and I just said, this is where I want to be. My parents weren't too happy about me going so far away. They were kind of hoping I would stay in the state. That way, I could drive home on the weekends and stuff. But they supported my effort to expand my wings and do my own thing. So
that's cool. How far of a drive was it from home, Toledo?
About 8.5 hours.
8.5 hours, yeah. So I could associate a little bit with that when I was in Georgia. For my undergrad, that was a huge deal. Our family, my mom and dad were very supportive, but I was the first to go to college in the family, but also to go far away.
Right.
Is like something you don't really do. So it was hard. I mean, they supported it, but I know it was difficult for them. So tell me a little bit tell us about the athletic career. What's the situation there?
Well, in high school, I was a standout football player. I played, we had a relatively, back when I went, we didn't have a very big team. So a lot of guys on the team, including me, had to play both ways. Okay. Which left for very little time for a swallow of water, some air. We didn't get much break. So, but I was a standout player. I was all county all 4 years.
Now, what position did you play?
I played linebacker and offensive guard. I kind of bounced around the offensive line. I played every position on the offensive line but center. It was experience. I excelled on the defensive side of the ball.
You preferred the defense.
Yeah.
That does not surprise me.
Yeah. No.
Well, my dad always said, he said it was good therapy, and it was a way to get out my aggressions. That's why I found the defensive side so much more enjoyable than the offensive side. I mean, you just go out there and you hit people. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's pretty much what you do. Mm-hmm. And but yeah, I was all county all 4 years, all state my senior year. I played baseball in high school. I was a first baseman. I had some talent. I hit for power, not average. So the ball was either going over the fence or I was going back to the bench.
Yeah, right.
There wasn't if I did hit a single or a double, it was very rare. Mm-hmm. So I celebrated those like most people celebrate home runs. Okay. Pumping my hands and everything and realizing, okay, well, you just hit the ball through the shortstop and now you're standing at first. Good job. Yeah. I mean, it was I was standout. I was good. Problem is, to play football at the next level, if you're not 6'5", 280, it's or have exceptional speed, mm-hmm.
Your
career kind of ends.
So, did you play then in college?
No, I did not play in college.
Okay.
No, my senior year of high school was the end of my organized sports. Now, I still get together with some guys and play softball or things like that, but that was the end of my athletic career.
I gotcha.
So
now you're in Toledo.
Yeah, I was
right?
I was at the University of Toledo, which is a great campus. It's a great school. It allows you the big school feel, but still small enough to where getting around is not an issue. Mm-hmm. I made a lot of friends at Toledo, which I'm still friends with today. I attended Toledo for 2.5 years. The reason why I ended up leaving was I got a little bit into college life too much. A little bit too much partying.
You stayed long hours in the library.
Yeah. If the library was a bar.
Yeah. By library meaning bar.
Right.
Okay. What were you majoring in?
Communications. I actually wanted to be in broadcasting. I wanted to be on ESPN.
Oh, look, you came
That's
full
so
circle
wild.
right here.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So I studied communications, which was good. I learned a lot. I got to work with a lot of interesting equipment and learn a lot of interesting things. But unfortunately, my partying led to an academic suspension.
Okay.
Which was really hard to tell my parents that you just spent 2.5 years of out-of-state college tuition for me, and I squandered it. Mm-hmm. My dad was never a big fan of squandering opportunities or money, so I had to call them and tell them, not coming back to school next semester. Which I know disappointed them. Mm-hmm. They've had high hopes for me and wanted to push me, and they've pushed me my whole life to be better at everything I do. Hmm. And so I know it was disappointing to them. So
how did they handle it?
My dad handled it with he was very upset at first, mm-hmm. but after a while it got quiet. Mm-hmm. My mom, she handled it with a lot of disappointment. Mm-hmm. Knowing that I had a great opportunity here. I was going to school. My parents were paying for it. Mm-hmm. If I was to finish, I would finish with no loans. Mm-hmm. A lot of people can't do that, mm-hmm. and so they were upset, but they chose to address it when I returned to New York. The ironic thing is when I was out at Toledo, I got involved with a girl, okay, and me and her got very close, okay, and she ended up returning back to home where she's from, which is in Trumbull County, Ohio, and unfortunately she returned home pregnant, mm-hmm. and she went back there and I went back east. And it was made perfectly clear to me by my parents that I'm to do the right thing. I'm to find a career, anything I want to do, and I'm to take care of my responsibilities. Mm-hmm. And they held me to that. I wasn't allowed to be like my real father was. Mm-hmm. Just bail on your family and let your kids grow up not knowing who their dad was and stuff. So I returned back to New York, and she returned back to Ohio, Trumbull County. I was in New York. I was back in New York, I'd probably say for a month and a half. I was doing construction work and stuff, and my dad says, "Is this your career?" And I said, "No, it's just money now. I need money." And he goes, "Well, you need to find a career." He goes, "I don't care what you do." He goes, you need to find something that you're going to do the rest of your life, that when you're done, you can say, I have a 401k, or mm-hmm. I have this, I can retire. Mm-hmm. Which is kind of funny because I didn't know what I wanted to do.
Right. You were around 20, 21-ish?
I was 22.
22.
22 years old, and I had no idea what I wanted to do. And TV actually shined a light on what I wanted to do, because I remember after my dad and me had that talk, that night I was sitting in the den and flipping through the channels, and Cops was on.
Okay.
So I watched like 2 or 3 episodes of Cops, and I remember my mom and dad were sitting in the kitchen, and I came out into the kitchen and I said, I think I found what I want to do. And my dad's like, really? And he goes, yeah. He goes, well, that's good. You know, you're heading in the right direction. That's, what'd you decide on? So I think I'm going to be a cop. And my mom stopped and looked at me and goes, she smiled at first because she's thinking I was kidding.
Mm-hmm.
I said, no, I did some research. You don't need a college education to be a cop. You just got to go to the police academy. And my mom's like, you're going to be a cop. She goes, yeah. And I looked at my dad, and my dad turned around and he looked at my mom and said, it's his choice. It was never a big popularized with my mom. Mm-hmm. She had a lot of issues with it. But my dad was able to say, it's his choice. If that's what he wants to do, he should do it. And he said, you'll be a good cop. And I said, well, thanks. He goes, you know how I know? I go, no. He goes, because growing up, you broke every law you could possibly think of, so no one's going to be able to get one by you. And we laughed about it, and I decided that the only way I could do it was to return to Ohio.
Yeah. And
go to the police academy out here and take care of my responsibility. And my parents thought that they weren't happy that I was leaving again, but they understood it's what I had to do.
Right.
So I returned to Ohio and got a factory job, days, and went to the police academy every night for 4 hours for 6 months.
Isn't it funny how you can still remember that night, like where you watch cops? Like
yeah.
that was just a moment, right?
Right. Absolutely.
And you remember the words of both your mom and dad.
Mm-hmm.
Who are your influences in life? Who have impacted you the most?
Well, my mom has always been, right by my side. She's always had my back through thick and thin. Even if, she didn't think what I was doing was right, she never disagreed with me in public. She would back me in public, but then privately she'd be like, listen, I don't completely agree with you here. My mom, when my real dad left, my mom took the responsibility of raising both of her sons by herself until my stepdad came around. And sometimes worked 1, 2 jobs, 3 jobs, always managed to come home. We had hot meals every night. She checked our homework every night. She made sure, come hell or high water, she would at every sporting event, every school function she would drive us back and forth to work before we got our licenses because we both worked at the local grocery store. She really, for a while there was a couple Thanksgivings where, I wondered if I was going to have a Thanksgiving like my friends. And my mom, without doubt, made miracles happen every Christmas and every Thanksgiving. We got everything we ever wanted. Mm-hmm. And she sacrificed a lot in her life to give back to her kids. Mm-hmm. And then my stepdad came around, and he didn't have any kids of his own, and it was an experience for him, because here he is, he's involved with my mom, and him and my mom actually grew up together. So here he came in, and he's with a woman who has 2 young boys. He didn't know how to parent. But for someone who didn't know how to parent, he did a pretty good job. Mm-hmm. He was very supportive, both emotionally and financially, with anything we ever wanted to do. Mm. My dad was real funny because when he would do something nice, when he was if it was paying for school or buying us cars or whatever it be, I would always say thank you. And he would always, I still to this day remember him saying, you don't have to thank me. He was never really big on, he would do out of kindness of his heart.
Right.
And never expected anyone to turn around and,
give it back to him.
Right. Give it back to him. And he never threw it in anyone's face.
Mm-hmm.
He just, if it didn't work out, he just chalked it up and moved on. But he did an amazing job. He came in, and assumed the role of the male figure in the house,
which was critical.
Very
for 2 young boys,
very
right?
critical,
Yeah.
because you know, I shudder to think where I would be as a father if he had not been in my life. Because, you know, prior to him coming to my life, I got to see the way my mom raised us. And, but I didn't know how to, you know, I realize now that I didn't know how to be a dad. You know, the image of a dad was my dad walking out on me. You know, and, you know, he stepped in and, you know, showed me how to be a positive role model. You know, showed me that, you know, this is what a dad does.
And I think that's important because, you know, you see, and I know this is a sensitive subject, you see around Mother's Day, again, this is sad,
right?
Where you see a child who was raised by just the mom. And they're always saying, like, you know, I was raised, or no, it would be Father's Day. And you would see that person say, they would post a picture of their mom and say, I was raised by, you know, the best mom and dad.
Right.
And it's like, but she can't be the dad.
Right.
And you're actually highlighting where you saw the strength of the male influence in the life.
Absolutely. And like I said, my dad he was amazing with the way he was able to. I never realized the fear he must have had, or the feeling of what am I going to do, because I can't imagine. You know, at that time, you know, I'm the kid.
Yeah.
You know, he stepped in, and here's two boys who being raised by their mom, and my mom did a great job. My mom, you know, she shielded us from a lot of hurt. You know, my mom was a very protective mama bear for us our whole lives. And, you know, my dad was the one to, you know, like my mom, you know, I don't know if I want you playing football. But my dad was like, boys have to be boys. You know, let him play. You know, my dad was always the one to kind of talk my mom into allowing us to do some things that, you know, we probably, if he wasn't around, she would have been like, absolutely not.
Yeah, right,
you know?
right.
And my mom's a strong-willed Italian woman.
There you go.
When she says this is the way it's going to be, that's the way it is.
Yeah. I'll never forget in the second grade, my mom and my nanon showed up to fight the second grade teacher because I would come home and cry because she was mean to me. And my mom and my nanon, literally, who like came over on a boat, showed up at the school. My nanon was in her nanon dress. And I just remember looking in the school at the door. And my mom and nanon are standing there. And I'm like, what's going on right now? I was like, I thought it was the coolest thing after. I felt so great. It felt so great to see those two people there. You know, it was like, you can't be mean. You can't be mean to Anthony. I guess it's like we're ending that. And I don't even know if she was mean to me. I think she was mean to other kids, but I just was like scared of her. Right. So if my second grade teacher's out there right now, I apologize. I'm sure you were nice. I was just little. All right, let's transition into the T-shirt here.
Oh,
I want to think a little bit about police work.
Okay.
What do you think are the number one things, one or two, that people misunderstand about police?
Well, I think what a lot of people don't understand, and you know, even before recent events, people need to understand that, you know, as a police officer, we're there to help. Okay, we're there to protect and shield from the bad. Okay, you know, there's a lot of times, you know, we'll just be out at a store and you'll see a child misbehaving, and nothing bothers me more than when the parent turns around and goes, you see that police officer, he's going to arrest you because you're bad. And I say to myself, well, now you've just instilled in that child that I'm a bad presence.
Yeah, right.
That, you know, if he's in trouble, he shouldn't call the police because we're going to take him to jail or her to jail. I think that there's a lot of people out there who think that they know how to do the job, but actually breaking it down and doing it is completely different.
So you mean from the public's perspective,
Right.
how they have this an idea of what you all should be doing, or, you know,
Right.
quote unquote, how I would have done it.
Right, exactly.
But they have no idea.
They don't understand, you know, the elements of the incident, and what led that officer to have to do what he's done, or take the actions that he's taken. It's a lot of the biggest problem with police work is some of the general public, okay, doesn't like us. And I do believe that most of the general public has a respect and an appreciation for law enforcement. But the people who respect and appreciate us are quiet, okay? The ones that don't like us and feel that, we're always overstepping our bounds and always being criminal are the ones that are outspoken. And, it's a shame that society has come to that, because I grew up with, I would see a police officer and they were like superheroes to me. Mm-hmm. Every time I would see a police officer when I was younger, I was all excited because, they were the closest thing to Superman or Spider-Man. Mm-hmm. That they were there to fight the bad,
right.
But nowadays, I think the public's view on the job itself has allowed a lot of people to, and I hate to say it, but they say all police, these police officers are bad.
Right. So it's everyone's lumped together. Right. How do you change that perception?
Well, I'm a big believer in believing that you change things by actions. Okay. Since the beginning of my law enforcement career over 20 years ago, you treat people the way you want to be treated. Okay. If you respect people, over 90% of the time, they're going to respect you back. Mm-hmm. A big part of police work, 90% of police work, is your ability to communicate with other people.
Okay.
Okay. Now, there is that 10% where every once in a while a situation may call for you to put hands on. But if you're a good communicator, you'd be surprised on how many situations you can resolve by, explaining your point of view and what you're required to do.
So odd break in here. Are you seeing a connection in a weird way of you at Toledo for communication helping you in your police work now?
I do see a little bit. I've always been pretty good with communication with people my entire life. Even when I was a little kid, it used to drive my mom crazy because I used to go out of my way to talk to strangers. And I was like, how many times I got to tell you, quit talking to people who don't know.
And in your world, and I'm similar to this, they're just no strangers. Like you,
exactly.
Or I can meet somebody, have a conversation with them, and then later they'll say, so-and-so. I'll say that's my friend.
Right.
And the other person may say, I met him for 18 seconds. I don't even really know him, but he's my friend.
Absolutely.
Well, and then the other part of that too is like, okay, there's no such thing as strangers. That's one thing in a small area like Newcastle. It's completely different in a city setting like New York, right?
Absolutely.
Because
there are some people who put the word strange in stranger.
Absolutely.
And I know that from growing up in
Newcastle has some pretty strange humans in there.
They do. they do, but
don't underestimate Newcastle.
But there is something about big cities, and of course, St. Louis is not. It's like a third of the size of New York City, but I can just tell you that there were some very strange strangers, because I'm kind of the exact same way. And I've got like my poor mom and dad, we'd be out shopping and I would always say hi, or I would just look at, and there's something about this face that makes people like, I could just tell, like just recently we were in Gettysburg over the summer and I saw this guy, he was extremely well dressed, and I just looked and I just said, hey, I like your outfit. I like your style. And there was clearly something mentally wrong with this guy. And he followed us for a good mile and a half. And my poor dad was trying to like outflank him, outrun him. And he just kept talking. And the whole time my dad goes, yeah, next time you see a guy who looks like that, don't say anything.
You immediately regretted saying that to the guy.
100% I did. So, yeah. So, all right. So one of the things I wanted to ask, because you were talking about your father and the importance of having a father. Do you think that there's any correlation between the fact that there's a lot of, and I can't remember what the statistic is, but something like 49% of kids go to bed without a father,
right?
Something like that.
Right.
Do you think that there's a correlation in the fact that because there is a lack of that male, I don't like that fatherly structure within a house, that in that same time we're seeing a lot of hatred towards police officers, really anybody that's in authority, And the other thing I've noticed too is it's men who are getting a lot of the hatred. It's the male cops that are getting the most hatred. I know part of that is because there's a lot more male cops than there are female cops. But do you think there's a correlation between those two things?
I think there's a correlation to all crime and the destruction of the nuclear family.
Really?
I think that and there's evidence out there. There's studies that prove children who grow up with a mom and a dad are less likely to break the law than single parent homes. I think that the lack of that nuclear family, because in a family, the mother is always the nourishing one, the caring, the compassionate one. And the father's role is to be caring and compassion, but also the disciplinarian. Okay, so when you grow up, a lot of people who grow up in single-family homes lack that discipline. So that correlates into, as they get older, never having to be held to the fire or accept consequences for their actions. They choose to go out and break the law, and then here come the police holding them accountable. And then the police are bad. I definitely, absolutely, 100% agree that the destruction of the nuclear families is a big reason why crime is the way it is.
So, I'm sorry. There's a direct connection here to the Old Testament with the Ten Commandments, and in Exodus 20, it says, "Honor your father and mother, and your days may be prolonged in the land which the Lord your God will give you," and that boiled down, honor your father and mother. People don't realize that it doesn't just end at mom and dad. That's the beginning. But if you honor them, you're going to honor more likely other authorities.
Absolutely.
And that's about respect. So when it's not taught at home, then your chances of seeing that in children in school with officers, you name it, is going to escalate.
Right.
And so, there's some real genius that God had there. It starts in the home.
Absolutely.
So.
I would say the other thing, too, is, I would love to get your take on this. The other thing I think that is leading to a lot of the distrust and the overall just disrespect towards police officers and law enforcement in general is a lot to do with the media. And the fact that there's... at least like growing up, one of the things that my parents always taught me was that someone is innocent until proven guilty.
Absolutely.
If you don't have grounds to prove that they're guilty, then you should not move on the grounds that they are guilty. And one of the things that I've noticed, and it always kind of confused me, is that when it comes to the media in the last just couple years or so, for whatever reason, when it comes to police officers, everything is always the police officer is at fault, right? And then there's outcry, and I'm not talking about one specific issue, I'm just talking like just general, is that months and months and months later, the footage will come out, or there will be another footage that will appear, and there's more to the story. And that's my reaction to almost every one of these media stories now is, okay, I'm going to wait until the whole picture comes. Right. Why do you think the media is so specific on always assuming that it's the cop's fault? And again, I'm not talking about a specific issue. I'm just talking about just general, because I think they have a huge part to play in that as well.
Absolutely, they do. The issue with the media is, the media has their own agendas,
right? And
they have their own. They're about ratings. Okay, they've gotten away from the news and have turned to shock and awe. Okay, and I look at it. Most departments throughout the country are equipped their officers with body cams. Okay, to video and record the incident as it happened, so you can see the position the officers put into.
Yeah.
When an incident happens, a lot of media outlets, okay, and you could say fake media. I completely agree with it. Will request the body cam footage, okay, which is public record, okay, and they'll be supplied with the body cam footage, and they will take it back to their edit rooms and removed a segment in the beginning of it that shows the officer's threat to himself, threat to the public, and they'll show either the officer gunning the man down or aggressively taking him to the ground and handcuffing him, tasing him, and they'll be like, "Oh, look, here's police. It's police brutality," and they're picking on a person who's unarmed and just going about their business, and whether it be because of skin color or religion or whatever it be.
Yeah.
They look at it now. Here's this cop who's systematically racist towards this individual. He was doing nothing wrong, and what you didn't see was the knife or the gun he had prior to that incident that led to that. You didn't see the threat.
Yeah.
Police officers don't go to work every day and say, "Who am I going to shoot today?"
Yeah.
With that being said, yes, I do agree that there are some officers out there who should look at other avenues of a career. It does take a special person to be a police officer.
Sure.
You have to be balanced because you deal with a wide array of things.
Yeah.
And it doesn't help when you have the media and some people in the public eye, politicians villainizing the police because they feel they're trying to keep the public controllable, and that's exactly what the media is doing. If they're able to control your thoughts and your mind and your feelings towards things, that's just the beginning. Once they've got you like that, you're going to believe everything they say. They can tell you the sky is purple and it's raining unicorns, and you're going to go outside looking. It's sad what's been done to the law enforcement officers through the media.
Yeah.
But it's something as someone in law enforcement, we combat every day. That's why you'll have some officers that say body cams are a pain in the rear. I don't like them. I think they're a very valuable tool in putting the general public in my shoes at that time. And to understand that, this is the decision I came to solve the problem, and this is why. A lot of people don't realize that, and I think one way of fixing that, to be completely honest with you, is let some of these reporters and let some of these politicians, there's some police agencies around the country that offers situational training. Okay, where yes, you're giving fake guns, okay, but you're put in a real life situation that a police officer may have to handle. And like I said, there's incidents on YouTube where people who were anti-police have gone through this.
It's a little wake up call.
It turns around, it's like you just shot that guy. Well, yeah, he was coming at me, but he didn't have a weapon.
Yeah.
But I was threatened.
Right.
Now you're seeing what the officer now. This is a staged, controllable event.
Yeah.
We can say, okay, stop, and everyone stops.
Right.
It's not like that for the officer.
Right. It's
not over.
You're waking
handcuffs and
you're waking up and wanting to go home too.
Right. Exactly. And I wake up I go to work every day, and I sit in my car before I go to work, and I pray. Because, like I said, the state of where things are right now is scary. Okay. And I just pray to God every day, just bring me home to my family. Let me live to do this another day.
So you're not doing this isolated. You're not in a vacuum. You've got a group of people around you, right? So
absolutely.
How important is camaraderie and teamwork?
Listen, it's a big, it's the biggest role in being successful in our job. Chances are, unless you're a small time department where there's only one car out, for the whole area. Now in our department, we have multiple units out. But, when you go to a call, you're always there with somebody. You know, there's always a backup unit there to help you. And, you know, knowing and being able to put your life in that person's hands and asking them to put theirs in yours. I mean, if you think about it, it's
huge.
It's gigantic.
I mean, there's not many jobs that are asking people to do that. I mean, you know, you can firemen, police officers, military.
Absolutely.
It's on the short list to think that you are putting your life in their hands and then vice versa.
Absolutely. And you know, it's I can honestly say that, you know, people I work with, I work with some of the greatest guys and girls, you know, in law enforcement. You know, we're able to have fun alone and rib each other alone. But, you know, when we get to, you know, when it comes down to doing the job, you know, our department has, you know, nothing but, you know, we have the utmost professionalism. You know, we carry ourselves with, you know, respect. And I think that plays a big role in success in your job. You know, if you can, you know, we respect each other. You know, in law enforcement, you know, an officer might not agree with something I do. I might not agree with something they do. But there's never a disagreement on a call. You know, we will afterwards brainstorm and, you know, explain our points of views and see where it goes. But you know, I work with, you know, a lot of senior officers who will answer the phone if I have a question, no matter what time. Who will, you know, my superiors are always there offering assistance, and in return, expect me, because of my experience, to help out younger officers and younger deputies to understand the job and apply the law. That's a big thing. If you can apply law to your job as a police officer, you've won half the battle. Because the biggest thing is, if you're going to arrest someone, you have to know what you're arresting them for.
Yeah.
You know, and it's a lot of people, you got to put forth effort. You know, the Ohio Revised Code is like 4 inches thick. It's huge, and no one ever reads it from cover to cover. But rest assured that there's pretty much a charge for everything that someone does wrong in that book. But like I said, I mean, camaraderie is a big role in this, because you have to be able to trust the people you're there with.
Yeah. So what I introduced you, deputy sheriff in patrol.
Yes.
Give us the quick version of what that is.
Well, patrol division is, you know, it's one aspect of sheriff's office. It, you know, we provide police protection to townships that don't have their own police coverage, and townships that enter into a contract with us for protection. We also, patrol division also backs up other smaller departments that only have one officer out on critical calls. We will, if other departments that only have that one car out are tied up with something and an emergency arises, you know, we will step in and handle it.
Okay.
You know, we try to, we stay out of the areas that have their full-time departments, you know, where they have a car to, unless they call for us, unless they call for help, you know, because we don't want to, you know, step on feet. You know, our workloads are big enough. We don't need to increase them,
Yeah.
you know, by trying to take everyone's call. But, I mean, it's the safety and security division of it, you know.
Okay. I didn't know.
Yeah,
When I asked the question, I asked for, you know, all the listeners out there, but like I told you before we started recording, I'm going to ask for them, but I'm really asking for me. I just didn't know. I'm not familiar with that. I'm sure there are people out there who are also wondering, what exactly does that mean, you know?
Yeah. So in your time of being a police officer and being a sheriff, a part of the sheriff, what do you say you have learned the most as far as just working in the job?
In police work, if a police officer tells you, I've seen it all, I know it all, they're lying to you. every day there's a possibility that you're going to see something. And I've done it to myself. I've been on strange calls where I've got back to my car and I've said to myself, that was strange. Now I have seen it all. And then the very next week, I'm like, I was wrong. I was wrong. You see everything in law enforcement. You can, and if an officer tells you, I know everything, I've seen everything, they either haven't done enough in law enforcement to know that, or they're delusional, because the one thing that you'll never experience with being in law enforcement is the shocking things that that you'll deal with or be a part of on a regular basis. I mean, there is really some off the wall type things. Like I remember fairly early in my career, I was working for another department, and this lady calls 911 and says that there's a monkey in a tree in her backyard. And I remember saying to myself, I was maybe only in law enforcement about 5 years at this point. So I remember saying to myself, well, send an ambulance because this woman's obviously crazy and I'm en route. Well, I get there and I pull in the driveway and this woman comes out of her garage and she's got a green robe on and the pink curlers in her hair. And I made a judgment, to myself. I'm like, wow, this woman's crazy. She's seeing things, there's probably, next thing you know, there's going to be a dinosaur in the backyard. And I walked up and I said, ma'am, you reported seeing a monkey in your tree in the backyard. She goes, yeah, it's back here. So we walked through the garage and out the man door to the back of the garage. She goes, look, right there. And I looked up and I went, holy cow, that's a monkey. There's a monkey in this woman's tree. And then watching the fire department come out and try to corral it with the ladder truck. It was someone's pet that had gotten out and was just hanging out in the trees. But I drew a conclusion that this woman was crazy because she said there was a monkey in her.
Yeah.
I never expected to actually see a monkey.
Right.
But I think at that moment I've learned that don't prejudge a call till you get there and you get the facts, because people can be right in what they're claiming happens, and this woman wanted, she even said on that one, I know this is going to sound crazy, but there's a monkey in my tree.
So I like that. That's a cool story. And I remember in Atlantic City years ago, my best friend and I were over there, and we stayed. It was a house where this guy would rent out little rooms for cheap, and we were there, and he ended up being like a former chief, just tons of years of police work behind him. And I'll never forget a story he told us. He said that he had a rookie that came in one night, and this rookie was bragging because he gave everyone a ton of tickets. Mm-hmm. So he's like, okay, this is odd, this stack of tickets. And what he found out was no. The story was he gave one kid a car that was swerving in the road. It was like 3 a.m.
Right.
Ticket for a ton of tickets. And what he found out was, and you're going to know all the different violations, I don't even want to get into that, but the main idea of the story is that he was swerving back and forth for all night. And so he called the rookie in and he talked to him, and he come to find out that the kid that he gave the ticket to was a newspaper delivery boy. Mm-hmm. And he was just like, look, I can do this in 10 hours, or I can just,
Right.
So you know what he told the rookie to do? It was I will never forget this. He told him to go back, apologize to the kid, and rip the tickets up. Okay? And I was like, wow. So he also explained to him, don't do that anymore. Like when he went back to the kid.
Right.
And the reason why he said that is because I needed him to understand that there's the law and the spirit behind the law. That for the rest of his career, if he doesn't understand to make the different judgments of to hammer someone or go up and not prejudge, that he could have talked to the kid, and he's a young kid just like any of us would have done, and he's like, oh yeah, I just want to hurry up and get it. He could have handled it and said, look, I know that seems like a good idea, and I know you're doing this at 3 a.m. purposely because there's no one around, but how about we stop this, and if you do this again, you're going to get a ticket. And he did that to teach him a lesson,
Right.
you know, and he explained to us that there's the law and the spirit behind the law. And man, that was like a real eye-opener for me. It was a very interesting approach. And I thought that that's something that people lack. And that's something that only over time a seasoned person could do or think about.
Well, my experience has always been, and my philosophy is, if you can resolve a situation, okay, without a ticket or without, obviously, if someone breaks the law and it's an arrestable offense, and I witness it, I have to take action. But like in that case, a lot of the times, if you can rectify the situation without having to go the court route with a citation and all this, that's much more beneficial in the long run because, A, you're simplifying your job. You're not making your job any harder than it has to be. At the same time, you're still doing your job effectively.
Right.
And you've just sent a message to the individual you were dealing with that you have compassion for what they're doing. However, the way they're doing it isn't necessarily because it's cutting time off of what they're doing or whatever it be. It's not necessarily the right way, by the law. And that goes back to communicating. If you're a good communicator, there are officers out there that they're bad communicators and they solve everything with a citation. Or a summons, in my court.
In my mind, this goes full circle to the very beginning of this when the example you gave of you're at a store and a parent goes, if you don't stop, he's gonna arrest you.
Right.
So in that moment, ready, bad impression. I'm scared. He's gonna get me, right? What that other seasoned officer did is he basically was saying you can now give him a good impression.
Right.
I'm here, like you said, to help. I'm here to help. Right? Those are
Absolutely.
two totally different things. One is now I'm jaded, you're a bad guy. One is wow, he's here to help. Now, if he continues to go out and do that week in and week out, he's going to have a problem.
Exactly.
But the first impression is wow, I'm impressed. They're caring people.
A big problem that I think would make not only my job as a law enforcement officer easy, but I wouldn't say easy, make it easier to do, is, there's a couple of issues in society that I think must be addressed, okay, in order for everyone to get on the same page and to realize the importance of these things. One of them is, along with being anti-police, you have a lot of people, especially recently, who are anti-gun. Why does someone need a gun? And you guys growing up, in the country understand that hunting season's like a fifth season to some people. You got winter, spring, fall, hunting season.
It's like a religious holiday.
You can't walk out of your house in Western PA
Right.
and not see camouflage.
Right, and I know guys that take
or Nazi
will take
camouflage.
weeks vacations to go hunting, and that's good. And everyone says, "Oh, I own guns to hunt, or I own guns to protect my family." And well, you don't need guns. Guns are bad. And vilify guns. A gun's never killed someone. It's the person who's using it that kills them. And I think the other issue is the fact that the media and some of our politicians nowadays have. They've taken Christ out of the equation. They've taken Christ out of life. They've and by doing that, they've gotten away for the examples that He has set for us for 2,000 years. The Bible is full of guidance and inspirational messaging. And people have literally, I think they've forgotten. I'm not saying everyone, because there was a lot of people out there who believe in God and believe in Christ and worship their respected religion, and that's great. I think a lot of problem is a lot of people who choose to break these laws. They don't live by Christ's example. And I always said that in relation to my first point with being anti-gun, when someone breaks into your house, you're going to do two things. You're going to call a guy with a gun, a cop, okay, and you're going to pray to God that he gets there in time. Okay. So why does it take a situation like that where you and your family are in danger, to open up and realize that it's not the guns that are evil. It's the intent behind the people who have removed Christ from their lives that makes it evil.
Yes. Very good. Very interesting. So, I mean, I'd agree with that. I think you'd agree with that. We're pretty much living in a very godless, self-centered society.
Absolutely.
And we need to return to Christ. We need to return to his values, and people need to change of heart. So that's all a challenge for all of us.
Absolutely.
Well, listen, we want to be mindful of the time. I know that we have appreciated you coming out.
Thank you for having me.
We want to say also thank you for the work that you do, the service that you do. We do appreciate it. I know a lot of folks out there listening do appreciate it. So this is Seth Walters, Anthony Clauditis, pastor at Faith, sitting with Thomas Barone. We're glad you're here. We hope you're blessed by this, and we hope you have an awesome week. We look forward to catching up with you next time.